Live from iRacing's virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RaceSpot's continuing coverage of the 2024 RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. Well, the New Year's side of the calendar rolls on, and after a fun throwback bit of action a week ago at The Rock, we're here in NASCAR's backyard and happy that you're with us on this Monday evening. As always, Derek walks in alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. Our producer downstairs is David Baird, and Derek back in the saddle once more as the Seth DeMerchant show rolled into the 2024 side of the calendar with a race win a week ago at Rockingham Speedway. His championship lead continues to balloon with now just 3 races to go.
Yeah, what a important battle for Seth. Look at the schedule here. We got Auto Club left after tonight, and then Old Atlanta in week 8. That will round out this IceBreaker series. But remember, the thing that sticks out to me is there's no drop weeks here in RSR across this 8-week schedule. So realistically, while it has been the Seth DeMerchant show, one bad night and he sort of comes back down to earth. Let's take a look at the points here and see what you're talking about with the points with Seth DeMerchant here. It's pretty far ahead, and the points are going to pop up any second here. And you'll see, Evan, he's pretty far ahead. Look at that. That is a 47-point gap over Michael Laraya.
Yeah, it's impressive. You talk about drops, he could take one and probably still have a slight lead in the championship. Now, everybody else is pretty close, right? You got Nathan Jurgensen, who's been the surprise standout at about 11 points back of Laraya. Agnew Phillip, of course, in the mix. Cody Harris, Ross Cato, all those names we expect to be there. But Seth has just been a step beyond, right? 3 race wins in 5 starts. He has finished inside of the top 5 in every single one of the starts so far this season, and admittedly has a good likelihood of doing so again against about a 22 car field that is ready to go racing at Charlotte. Now again, a couple of more races still to go. All it would take would be a bad night, and then things would get interesting. So that is why you play the game, right? That's why you compete in the races, is because if we just decided things based on stats and probability, no reason to show up to the racetrack. And there's Seth getting a little bit out of control in the final few minutes of the practice session as things will continue to wind down, and then they will get ready in about 2 minutes time for that 5-minute open qualifying session, which has been one of the more interesting storylines to follow all season. Drivers not used to that. It had been the closed qualifying session the last couple of years here in the Winter Series, of course in the Cup Series as well, but open qualifying, a new change. We've seen some racetracks mean that has caused more of a wrinkle than others. We'll be interested to see how it plays on this updated, the newer skin of Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, what it means a lot of times is while it's very minimal impact at some of these tracks, that little bit of draft you can suck on the back straight can really matter a lot here, and can really just give you an extra 1/10 or 2/10, which would how tight the field here is in RSR. That could mean a lot. Look at tonight's race, though, Evan. 100 laps right on the dot. It's a fixed setup, no fast repairs. You get 4 additional sets of tires. That came up last week when Andrew and I got that wrong. And, of course, it's 100% fuel capacity. So right now, tonight, you know, the question would be how many pit stops do you need? I suspect we'll see probably some drivers try this as a one-stop run if we keep it green.
And that will be the big if, right? I mean, we take a look at what the trends have been so far. Last week at Rockingham, 5 caution flags, 4 at Homestead, 4 at Michigan, 5 at Chicago, and 5 in Daytona. If they have been one thing, they have been consistent, right? In about 4 or 5 yellows every single night. Now, do keep in mind that some of those other races, you're talking about car counts up in the 35s, 33s or so. So a slightly smaller field as some drivers have been eliminated from, competitive contention in terms of the championship. That should give everybody a little bit more space on the racetrack, and we'll see just how much of a factor that will be. Agnew Phillip, we take a look at him, a multi-time RSR champion. He's kind of midfield on the practice charts. His 39.98 as a best time is only good enough for 11th fastest. DeMerchant currently only good enough for being 8th fastest, as Galen Gidman, Nathan Jurgensen, and Andrew Freenach in the 30.6 and 0.7 range will be the fastest 3 cars in the practice session. And now that the clock ticks down to 0, it is time to go for open qualifying. Pole position up for grabs in the 6th race of the season as they'll all start to race their way off of pit road and onto the banking.
Yeah, this is that exciting part for me right here. And if you see them start to come off pit road, if we can get a camera over there, you'll see this how bundled up they already are. There's your championship leader, Seth DeMerchant. Now, the positive I said, Evan, is that there's a draft here, possibly a small draft to get in and to maybe get up to speed. The negative side is that there's really no space, it feels like, to make your own lap. You always feel like you're just in someone's way or someone's in your way. While it is a 1.5 mile track here, Charlotte, it doesn't feel like the biggest track. It feels like this track moves very fast, and there's Cody Harris on screen for a moment there as we're kind of cycling through the field. But yeah, we'll see who does well in this qualifying. I love open qualifying. I know the challenges it posed in real life. I wish they could fix it and bring it back.
I do tend to be of the opinion that most things that drivers do not like are things that make it more challenging and more entertaining. Now, that being said, the whole change to these Gen 4 cars, a lot of the other rule changes that were made for this IceBreaker Winter Series were done based on driver feedback. There's a balance, right, between what they will like, that will get them to compete, that will have them enjoying their time on the racetrack, while at the same time also putting up a challenge against them. First lap time for Freenach, fastest tentatively 38.48, and as those times click in on the left-hand side of your screen, we will watch them dance around for the next minute, or 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, and look at this already. Seth DeMerchant running that top lane. It's a topic we had last week. Whoa, man, look at that slide. Because of the track, that was just a loose race car. Man, for Seth being someone who really, was not top of the board in practice, I feel like he's just out here playing around, wanting to see what the car can do for race conditions.
Thought I saw some sparks there and maybe a bit of a wall touch that time off of the corner. Curious if Seth's going to be allowed to score a lap time there. 2:31 was his last time. I don't think if it did count that it was an improvement. Again, the other caveat in qualifying is that you cannot have any incident points. Really, the only realistic one that's going to happen that would allow any good lap would be a 1x for wall contact, but you can get away with a little bit if you could walk that line. As Jurgensen down in 10th at the moment, he jumps up to P8. DeMerchant going to come around for another lap time. He puts a 31.0 down, so still no improvement. And Andrew Freenach, who had the clean air as the first car off of pit road, still stands at the top of the board more than halfway through the session.
You know what you're seeing here, by the way, on the screen at times is you're seeing, man, look at another loose car off of 2 right there. That may be a story that develops all night long with how that turn 2 is behaving, because Doug Roth, while not as loose as Seth was a moment ago, still had that car sideways.
Yeah, that's one thing these drivers love about these cars is steering them with the horsepower, and you can use the practice session and to an extent even this qualifying session as well to kind of see where that line is, how aggressive you could get before you get into the race, and depending on the green flag runs, maybe require yourself to be a little bit more conservative in terms of keeping that equipment underneath you over the course of the run. Still Freenach, Wetmore, DeMerchant, 1, 2, and 3. You look at Agnew Phillip there, he sits 4th. Tom Wetmore in P2. Can he get the improvement that he needs? One thing I have been surprised about, Derek, the fact that these drivers haven't really gone out, put a lap time down, and then come back down pit road. Well, Wetmore did pit midway through, so he's got fresh tires on it. There's no limitations to that in terms of the qualifying session. He's got a bit of a draft out in front. Are those factors going to come together for Wetmore? 38.69. The benchmark? No. 31 flat. He can't pick up time.
You see the difference there on your screen, a .021 is what he's missing to be up there on the pole. And we've seen a couple, wow, man, look at that input they're having to do right there. Again, out of that corner. He saw his drafting partner pull down to kill the run. With only about 41 seconds of, I can't imagine at this point that you're going to get back off the track here and back on. So I think what you have here is what you have. Tom Wetmore might as well run it out.
He overdrove at that time, knowing that, hey, there's not time to get down to the pit lane, reset, and go again, and just put that car into the outside wall. DeMerchant 31.108. His lap time has started. He may have an opportunity to come back around for one more flyer. Again, DeMerchant, championship leader, slated to start inside of the top 5, in which he's finished every single race so far this season. His best lap time is a 30.914. He would have to pick up about 0.03 of a second if he wants to be able to get the top spot. Checkered flag is in the air. Final time for the championship leader, 39.30. So good, but still not better than his PB. And at 66/1000ths of a second off, he does not improve. He does not steal pole. 20 seconds left on the clock. A few more cars on track, but I think that'll just about do it. And I don't know how many times this year we've seen the first secured lap be the one to stand the test of time, but it looks like that's exactly what Freenosh has done.
Yeah, that's a great job. Went out there and sort of set the pace and made everyone try to run it down and maybe made them push a little harder than they wanted to. We'll have to wait and see if that really is a condition of the track or the practice or the qualifying or what have you. But let's take a look at tonight's starting grid and see how it forms out.
We'll go down trackside, take a look at your RealSimRacing starting grid for round number 6 of this RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. And on a pole position is Andrew Freenosh. His 38.48 stood the test of time, and he will stand alongside with the 51 of Tom Wetmore on row number 1. Seth the Merchant and Agnell Phillip will line up row 2. Those are some big names, and it includes those drivers behind them, with Cody Harris in 5th and Galen Gidman best in practice, P6 in qualifying.
Moving back in the grid here, you'll find Michael Loraya currently P2 in the points, is P7 on the grid, with Nathan Jurgensen right outside of him on row number 4. Sam Nieto and William Schmidt 9th and 10th. And then Jaron Weinmeister and Ross Cato round out row number 6.
That means that lucky number 13 tonight belongs to the 8 of Kyle Kamer, and Minazzi Major will start to the outside of row number 7, 8 of 14th. Don Stevenson starts in 15th position, Braden Whitaker from 16th, Doug Roth in 17th, and DeAndre Kane, P18.
Moving back in the field here, we'll finish it off here. Michael Guest in 19th. Maverick Davis back in 20th with Grant Davis in 21st. Harry Grindell in 22nd. And your last car on the grid tonight is Mike Maddox back in P23.
Let's look top to bottom at your RealSimRacing starting grid. And one of my favorite things about this new Charlotte Motor Speedway is that they'll get to line up on the front stretch and roll off. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about this Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, if you think NASCAR, this racing surface is about as quintessential as you can get. A 1.5 mile quad oval speedway, 24 degrees of banking in the corners, 6 degrees on the straightaway. You mentioned it doesn't feel as wide as some of the other intermediate tracks, doesn't feel quite as tight like a Texas may. But this is the track on the oval side that you start with when you are a rookie to the iRacing service. You start here in the street stocks. If you decide to go that route, there is probably very few tracks, maybe only the super speedways, that these drivers have more laps on the surface than here at Charlotte. It'd be a fun challenge in these throwback Gen 4 cars. And talking about the schedule, second to last intermediate race of the year, but they should enjoy the smooth surface while they can, because when we head to Atlanta in 2 weeks' time, going to be a very different story. Not a lot of parallels.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a very different contrast to last week, of course, at Rockingham, where it was bumpy and just, aggressive all night long on the tires. You're right, this is a very smooth surface, repaved not too long ago. So it'll be a very nice surface here for these drivers, and so it'll be a little bit nicer on the arms. I think there were some comments I saw last week that the force feedback was atrocious on the arms last week at Rockingham. Tonight, you could almost read a book with how smooth it'll be.
Seth the Merchant has won all of the odd-numbered races so far this season. Race 1 in Daytona, 3 at Michigan, and 5 at Rockingham. So does that mean that the trend will continue, and we'll see a new face at victory lane here tonight? Pace car off and in. It's Andrew Freenosh's field to control. Let's go racing at Charlotte. First mile and a half going to be in the books, and it is a new race leader, Tom Wetmore. A strange start, some issues on the inside line, and Seth the Merchant with some technical issues involving his monitor drops back. He falls all the way outside of the top 15.
Yeah, those gremlins peeked their head and really had a sort of a suboptimal time, but in a way, a great time for Seth. While it's happening on the restart and you can kind of fall out of line safely, it's a great time to have it happen. And now puts him well behind the 8 ball as far as his spot on track, but with a long night ahead, he can level it off pretty easily, Evan. But yeah, big story already for your points leader.
I have seen the Seths of the world intentionally not take a qualifying lap before so they could have the fun of driving through the field. It may not be what the 57 signed up for, but he does have ample opportunity to get there. I will say maybe not a ton of time. 100 laps, not too long. The constant feedback from the drivers have been they want longer races. They want more than just a 100-lap sprint. Again, these Winter Series races historically on the shorter end compared to the Cup Series, in which we run 50% race length compared to the NASCAR Cup Series counterparts. So the Merchant, not with a ton of time, but we'll see how he plays his cards. Currently in P19, we'll keep an eye on that as the night goes on. So again, with the issues, it meant that Wetmore jumped to an early race lead. Agado Phillip went up to the number 2 spot, and your pole sitter Andrew Freenosh leads nothing. He sits back in 3rd at the moment, as there's a decent amount of separation in the top 5 or so, right? You got to jump back to that like secondary group right there around the blue 44 Lariah. You got Gidman up there as well. This midfield area has got a little bit more going on right now as those top 5 or so have spread out.
Yeah, that's Sam Nieto right there in that red number 2 car, having a great run here and really comfortable. Sam, one of the drivers who came into IceBreaker, Evan, never having touched this Gen 4 car before, and it's been around for a couple seasons by now, so you'd think most drivers would have some experience with it. Of course, this car came around as iRacing sort of accidentally tweaked some settings, but the community loved it, and the community begged for it, and there was a big push on the forums, and so iRacing said, here you go, here's your Gen 4 car. But yeah, Sam's had an incredible season for someone who had never touched a car before.
It has been impressive. Somebody who has grown so much in his time here at RSR, and you can see up the road the unmistakable colors of Cody Harris. The 28 car is just kind of holding off the action behind him. Lariah's 44 on the bottom, but it's Nathan Jurgensen trying to make the move topside. Nearly 2 sets of 2. Behind them, Gidman side by side with the 97, William Schmidt. This battle all going on for about 5th position down through 9th.
Well, I have to ask you, Evan, I know you're celebrating that national title win, but I'm going to make you say it. What are those colors on the Cody Harris car?
I think that is the colors of the non-national champion and non-Rose Bowl champion and non-Big Ten champion Ohio State Buckeyes, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and what colors are those?
Red and white is what it looks like to me.
Oh, my goodness. It's scarlet and gray. Good Lord.
It is funny, I will say, because my alma mater, being the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, our colors are actually also scarlet and gray, funny enough. So there's a joke in there somewhere.
I had no idea that their colors were. That's kind of funny. But right now, look at this. The pack is sort of backed up a little bit off of Cody Harris. Now, what I'm unsure of at this moment, is Cody faster, or did they get a little frustrated and want to back up to get a better run at him? Because it looked like a moment ago that Cody was sort of holding that field up more than he was dominating that line. So I'm curious to see how Nathan and the others react when they get back up here on him.
Yeah, I've always said I want to be the last car in a pack than the first, and that might seem strange, but if I'm the lead car in this pack, right, which is Cody or Andrew right now, there's no upside for me and there's a lot of downside, right? I have to get way up in front to catch the next car. That's not likely to happen, but if I've got 4 or 5 cars nipping at my heels, I am more likely to lose spots than gain spots into my current position. Whereas it's the opposite if you're at the back of the pack and you're Galen to Gidman. There's nobody out the back end right now. He's got a whole second back to Sam Nieto into P9. So for Galen, not a lot of pressure at the moment. He's not getting pressure from behind. He's not likely to lose anything. There's a good look at the gap off of the back bumper. The likelihood of him losing a spot in the next 5 laps, pretty low. The likelihood of him gaining some, a little bit better because he's got Lariah, Schmidt, Jurgensen, Harris right in front of him.
And the benefit here as well is Gidman doesn't have to worry about his braking point into a corner. No one's going to run him over because he brakes a little earlier, a little off of whatever they brake for. If you're in the middle of this pack, if you're a Lariah, if you are even a Cody Harris, or others, a Jurgensen, if you brake wrong and someone doesn't anticipate it, it doesn't take much to get these cars turned around if someone gives you the bump accidentally. Whoa,
You can
look
see,
at that.
oh,
My,
that
that
counter steer. Yeah, I don't know if he got loose before the left side tires got on that white line or if it was because of the left side tires getting on that white line. But there was a lot of counter steer there for Galen de Gidman, and now it provides a little bit of breathing room to the back bumper of Michael Araya, who's 44 car, with an opportunity to breathe. And now Harris on the offensive, looking to the outside of Andrew Freenosh. This battle for third, as you kind of keep a half eye, those top two in the running order may have a battle for the race lead of their own. Here comes Zagnall Phillip to the outside. He's going to go to the outside of Wetmore, and they'll go side by side for the race lead.
Agnell's definitely had his moment this season, the IceBreaker, where he's kind of had some highlights, but also some lowlights. And look at this beautiful battle we're having here. Agnell taking the higher lane and really trying to keep that car as steady as possible and off the wall. And I think maybe through here, he might be able to complete the pass. Looks like he just has a little bit better speed than the car on the inside. And man, he is trying to take the race lead here, and I think he's finally pulled it off.
Agnell has walked away with the last 3 driver championships in RealSimRacing competition, the 2022 Cup Series, 2023 Winter Series, and 2023 Cup Series Championship, kind of starting his own mini dynasty to match that of what we had seen out of Andrew Freenosh previously, in which Agnell's championships had snapped. At that point, it was Andrew winning everything. And again, maybe a passing of the torch with the talent of Seth the Merchant and company coming in. Agnell still not out of this championship fight, still in a very good position to fight for a top 2, a top 3, maybe even the number 1 spot if Seth has some problems. So it is not by any means a down year for Zagnall Phillip, but this is a big moment, one that we haven't seen a ton out of this season for him, with only 2 top 5s in 5 starts.
You know, and it's impressive. You talk about Agnell's success in RSR. If we have that camera shot, or we've had it in the past, and all this is sort of the hardware he has next to him to show off his success, it's a great reminder of how awesome of a driver that Zagnall Phillip is. You get the title belts. I think there's a trophy back there somewhere. A lot of great stuff for Zagnall Phillip here. Look at this, the battle here now between the 12 and the 8 ball, and that's Cameron in the 8 trying to get up here to the 12 car, which is Ross Cato. Slightly different lines, but overall, most drivers tonight are picking the bottom groove through the corners.
Cato and Kamer have had pretty equal speed. They've both gained 2 spots so far in this race, so they've had both been moving forward and have followed each other through the field to this point, but maybe the 8 car feels like it's his moment to go, and that may be pressured by the fact that 9 car, Jaron Weinmaster's all over the bumper. Weinmaster looks low. Kamer puts a half block on him. The 9 car going to go all the way to the bottom regardless, but that did not give the 8 car the corner entry that he needed. So it's going to give Cato a bit of a gap. And again, Kamer may have been content with just riding with the 12, letting the 12 do the dirty work, and then following him through as they've marched through the field together. But when you get Weinmaster and Major and some of these other guys challenging, it kind of forces your hand. Weinmaster with a real poor lap as well. He was just on the bumper of those guys up the road, and now Manazzi Majors cleared him, and the 24 at Grant Davis to the outside as well. So talking about how good the 9 car was at being an aggressor, he dropped out like a rock. Then up to the battle between 2nd and 3rd. Cody Harris marching through the field. He's got to the inside of Wetmore for P2.
Wow, great run here so for Cody. He's going to have that inside group, has a little bit of a draft help behind him that'll help him down the back straight. Now Cody's going to focus on keeping the wheel straight and making sure that he knows, when he's clear, when he's not clear. Whether that be via the iRacing spotter or be via a real life spotter he has. But look at that gap closing behind him. That's Andrew Freenosh. And man, he is all over the back bumper of Cody Harris. Oh, contact.
Bit of a touch there, and the 51 car of Wetmore going to lose out because of it after Wetmore got into the outside wall on his own. Harris was going to tuck in line and yield the spot, but 51 got the fence, so because of that, Harris gets 2nd, Freenosh back to 3rd, and the drop for the 51 not done yet because Michael Laraya going to go to the inside. The Sim Speed Shop Chevrolet makes the pass, and the Tube Tech 51 for Wetmore will go from leading the opening 11 laps of this race to being scored down in 5th at lap number 19.
So the question right now for everybody, especially for Tom Wetmore, is how much damage did he really pick up off of that wall scrub? Because 2 things happened. Actually, he scrubbed the wall, And then Cody Harris made contact on the other side. So now the question is, did he pick up any damage? Has he picked up any performance impact? And it kind of looks like it. I'm not sure if that's just, actual speed or just kind of wanting to back off the car and get it under him again. But he is quickly getting attacked here by the top 7.
And I mentioned in the qualifying session when we saw the likes of DeMerchant and others, right, sliding those cars around, really pushing them, to find that line now, because when you get into the race, you're going to need to be a little bit more conservative about making that race car last. And I wonder if Wetmore just got out of the block so hot that he really used up his stuff and is now paying the price.
Yeah, very likely so. Very likely was very aggressive, turning down those hot laps and wanting to keep the lead, and may have just burned up his tires. That's a difference of a lot of drivers in iRacing, Evan. Some people are short-run drivers. Some drivers are long-run drivers. And it's a very interesting contrast when you hear those two drivers talk, because the short-run driver cannot understand how you save tires for their life, and the long-run driver is begging to find ways to find speed early in a run.
I also think that's what separates some of the very best, is that ability to somehow be so consistent over the course of a race. I can give you 199% on a lap, and I'll maybe be midfield, and that's even worse than the fact that if I'm 20 laps into a run, I can't do it. That is what all of the seat time, all of the practice does for these kind of drivers, is the fact that they're able to manage the race. Race management is what separates pros from maybe the Joes like myself. That 44 way up exactly on the outside wall. Maybe a bit of a kiss there with the right rear quarter panel as well. That's going to allow Harris to get back underneath, and the battle for third is on again.
And that idea or that strategy between short run and long run, a driver can also change depending on what they think the race is going to be like. If you have the confidence of this race staying green, and maybe we go green all 100 laps, you should want to back off a little bit and save something and have something left for the end of a run. But maybe through the eyes of practice or your track experience or your knowledge of other drivers, if you think this race could have some calamity, then you're okay burning up your stuff quickly, because you think that there will be a couple cautions in order to be allowed to change your tires and keep competitive. But if you get that strategy called wrong either way, then you can really start to feel the impact of it.
And already a quarter of the way into this 6th race of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. Seth DeMerchant's climb back has been slow, right? Started this race, I don't even know if I can count it as a start, because his issues, I think, were pre-green flag, but rolled off of the grid in 3rd, slipped all the way back to 19th spot. He has made some headway. It's to 13th on the leaderboard right now. What I would be more worried about if I'm Seth, if we're talking a race win, and granted, for most drivers, you drop the P19, we're not even, considering race win, right? But for Seth, can never count that out. My thing is not necessarily position numbers, Derek, but it's going to be gap, right, time-wise. Because passing cars is one thing, but the time it takes to pass them is what is more hurtful. So Seth in 13th is, right now, according to the leaderboard there, about 6.3 seconds off of the race leader. He ran a 33.3 last time, Agna Phillip a 33.2. So he's a little bit slower than the cars up front, and he's going to be working harder than the cars up front to make those passes. Those are the factors that are going to start to work against Seth as this run continues on.
There's a point you made right before we went green about this grid being smaller than it has been in the past, because of either people falling out of contention, maybe starting to practice for the Daytona 24 or whatever reason. That's a benefit to Seth both in this race and season long for that points title. If this had been race 1, race 2 of RSR IceBreaker series, and he had that problem, Evan, he could have fallen back to 33rd, 34th, back there in that range. With all respect, falling back to 19th because of a hardware gremlin, that's sort of a lucky break in the sense that it could have been way worse. And it does mean that even if this race does go bad for Seth, finishing last is not going to have the impact it would have had earlier in the season. So Seth is possibly the biggest beneficiary of a smaller grid.
It also helps him in terms of the greatest lost potential, right? He has more than a race worth of points of an advantage in the championship lead coming into tonight. You say, well, a bad race could take him out of it. Well, a bad race in week 6 hurts less than a bad race in week 2, right? The worst finish that you could see at a Seth tonight, if he were to crash out DNF and finish 23rd, he'd still walk away race points, with a decent number. We talk about how many positions are left. 23rd would net you still 15 or 14 race points. Whereas if you're talking start of the season, finishing 35th, that would be 2 race points. So that lowest potential is still not as bad and still would walk him away with a decent points haul. So I think that even further proves that having a good start to the season may actually be more important than a good end to the season as you go back on board with him.
Oh, look at those hands. For what we talked about being a smooth track, watch these hands here. I always believe that a driver's hands will tell you the story of how this race car is behaving. And the less movement in your wheel, the better. The fact that scares me so much about this car, Evan, look how much cranking to the right there is. These are left-hand corners, and he is still cranking that wheel to the right to try to keep that car under him.
That's going to be happening all night long. Seth completes the pass on the 24 Grant Davis. He is now up to the number 12 spot. Again, positions gained on the left-hand side of your screen there. Again, a lot of green towards the front. Michael Araya, top 3. He's up 4 positions. Agno Phillip passing 3 en route to the race lead. Seth the Merchant still currently the biggest loser at -9, but he is going to continue to try to chip away. I don't know if I've ever seen the driver who's the biggest loser in terms of positions lost from the start. Derek may also be the driver who has passed more cars currently than anybody else.
Yeah, that stat kind of deceiving right now, isn't it? Because obviously Seth officially is not your biggest mover of the night, but we both know that, in reality he is. But you can see the number there on the left. I mean, Michael Araya, by the way, this is his chance to pounce in a sense. He's up 4. If he get up, positive 6, he'd be in the lead. This is his night to kind of pounce and close that lead with only 2 more races left. But here's Tom Wetmore down pit road, breaking this race apparently into thirds. I'm not surprised, but I guess I am, because I thought we'd see more of the one-stop play, but Tom Wetmore is going to open us up on pit road on lap 33.
Well, we'll see if any other drivers want to follow suit. Wetmore, the first driver to make scheduled pit service tonight. DeAndre Kane pitted about 8 laps ago. That was not scheduled service, though, as that's a bit of a close call there. Galen Gidman going to come down pit road. So it's a couple of top 10 cars coming down pit road. That's, very different than somebody in 15th or 16th going off strategy. And then you wonder if you're some of the other cars in the top 5, top 10, do you respond to the fact that a couple of cars are coming down for seemingly the 2-stop strategy? Does that change your mind at all, or do you stick with what you want? Well, Agno Phillip, race leader, continues to truck on through as Gidman and Grindle now, the current 2 cars on pit road. So that's 3 that have been in so far for service on this cycle.
Yeah, oftentimes when that first car comes down pit road, it sort of creates that open invitation to a party where everyone sort of wants to follow along and, okay, well, if he did it, it must be time. Now, the thing about Wetmore to remember is he had that damage from earlier where he hit the outside wall and it made the contact with Cody Harris. So it could be he just decided between the damage and the tires, that was all he could handle for the moment. But right now, your leaders are going to continue to stay out here. That's Nathan Jurgensen on your screen with Dylan Schmidt right behind him. And Cody Harris in your front of your screen right there has opted to join the pit road party.
That looked a little close to the barrier. I'm sure he was in control the whole time, but it caught my eye a little bit with that pit road wall there being off of turn number 4. Still not completely used to that being a part of this newer Charlotte Motor Speedway complex, but he is in nonetheless. Pit road speed a slow 45 miles an hour as he crawls into the box. And again, the decision likely going to be 4 tires and fuel for all of the takers on pit road. Right side's up. The crew's going to go over to the left-hand side. It is going to be a wholesale stop for Cody Harris. So that is 4 drivers now down pit road. William Schmidt, just mentioned his name, Derek. He's also down pit road.
Yep, down pit road he is. William Schmidt, by the way. I think I got the name wrong earlier. Sorry, it's William Schmidt, not Dylan. But here's Cody Harris off at pit road. So now the test will be for drivers like Cody Harris or Tom Wetmore or others. The test is how much more speed do they have, how much more grip do they have, and what does that make the leaders feel like when they get passed here in a moment by these cars who've just pitted? Because that's what's going to happen. Look at this. That's the difference right there. Cody Harris zooms right by Cameron in the 8. Watch this pit road entry. Oh, that's close, man. Actually, it looked a little closer from the outside than it did the inside. I don't know if Cody Harris knew just how close he was to hitting a barrel.
It just caught my eye, right? Something that makes your ears perk up, your eyes go a little bit big as he was coming down pit road. But that's just maximizing time, right? You don't want to scrub off too much speed. You want to stay on it. So as all of this cycles through, the other thing these cars who have pitted need to keep in mind is they're going to go a lap down based on the time on pit road, right? Time down pit lane, 37 seconds or so. That includes time driving to and also in the box. So they're all a lap down. It is a bit of a risky call to make the earlier pit stop because of the fact that if there were to be a yellow flag, you'd be stuck a lap down. That is often the biggest deterrent in going off cycle, quote unquote, and going against the grain for the short pit strategy. They probably feel like smaller field size, decent separation from car to car. The likelihood of that happening to them may be lower than it would be in other races. So I don't dislike the call, but anytime we get a split strategy race, I'm here for it. And it may not be a 50-50 split, but we've got a healthy split of cars on different calls as Benazzi Major has got Maverick Davis all over him in the battle for P10.
Yeah, Maverick with a great move right there, trying to get under that car. And that entrance into that tri-oval and that exit tri-oval, Evan, that's the part of this track that to me feels the most narrow as a driver. When you're trying to get inside there and avoid the car on the outside, I know there's plenty of space, but there's something about the view out of the windshield that makes you think there's not. And there's Maverick Davis going to make the pass here before we get to that spot, and he'll have it cleared. And now Major will try to make the over-under, but doesn't get there in time. But yeah, that's right there. I don't know why. I don't know if there's just some kind of visual, test or just one of those puzzles, but it feels super narrow in the car.
It does feel pretty narrow inside of these cars, and again, a lot of that may have to do with, the thicker white line on the bottom, the safer barrier, the lack of multiple seams. You got that bottom seam, but then that second seam is so high up, right? Other racetracks, the seams are a little bit lower. The quad oval is those kinks right here, where you essentially have too many turns on the front as well. I mean, you're closer to the wall. All of those things, I think, come together. The aggressive transition from the banking to the apron. There's no kind of middle ground transitioning period there. All those factors come together to just make things feel a little bit claustrophobic. Now, I mentioned this is the track that you start your oval career in on the surface. At a street stock, this place feels like iRacing Super Speedway. But in these Gen 4 cars, at these speeds, when your back end is kicked out and you're driving at about a 10-degree angle all the way around the racetrack as well, all those things make it feel like a bull ring.
It's funny you say that. I always encourage every member, once a year, to go back and do a street stock race at nighttime Charlotte. And remember, when you started the service, those cars felt like such speed demons, right? You thought you were going so fast. In a street stock around Charlotte, you're drafting, beating, and bumping. You do it now, and you're like, man, this is kind of slow, right? I
couldn't do a lap without lifting back in the day in the street stocks in Charlotte. I thought I was on a rocket ship.
Yeah, nowadays, you could read a book, you could make some coffee, you could do whatever. But to tell you what, this battle right here, this is tight. They're going to be 3 wide, Evan.
3 wide, lap traffic on the bottom, going to be a factor in the battle for the race lead as racing by goes William Schmidt on fresh tires, and Galen Gidman also trying to find a way by your new race leader, Andrew Freenosh, on the bottom. Clears the 94 of Agnell Phillip, and after Wetmore led the opening 11, Agnell led the following 32, and it's Freenosh, top of the scoring to pile on for the first time. He is enough to be clear off a 2, and Phillip got a bit of the fence there to finish off that pass.
And now that lap bar will make that pass here. So now as we're about to halfway point of the race, we're now working lap 45 into 46. Now you start to wonder when Freenosh, when Phillip, when Raya and the others will finally make that call. They're just about to the halfway point, so they're obviously looking for the one stopper. Now they can see what those tires look like. They just saw them get blown right by that lapped car who unlapped himself. As a driver, that's a real mind teaser, if you will, when you see that happen.
It is, and with all those cars getting in the mix as well, I don't think the lap traffic played too much of a factor in the battle. It certainly made it exciting as things went 3 wide, but I think this goes down to Agnell saved better after the start of the race than what we saw to Wetmore. That's how he got to the lead. And same thing for Freenach. He was able to save better, getting to this point to then get out in front. So two of the biggest and best names who have ever done it in RSR find themselves first and second. Seth the Merchant is driven up to 7th. How much of a P7 is that, or is that affected by some of the cars who have come down pit road for the two-stop strategy? As you see Cody Harris continuing to fight aggressively. He was one of the drivers who had been on pit road previously, so that battle with Wetmore is a battle for position. Michael Guest gonna get sideways off the corner. He's also for position for 15th as they go by on the outside.
Man, that's scary as a driver when it happens, when you see the car inside get loose, because you sort of just have to hold your breath and hope it's going to go okay here. Now they're going to come around Doug Roth in that old 43 STP machine, and Doug's going to be in the way. He's trying to let them go high. I think Doug wasn't sure what lane he wanted to let them go by on.
And maybe a little bit of second guessing as he gets a little bit loose that time on the bottom. You can want to, oh, I'm on the outside, but it'd be easier for the leaders if I was on the bottom or vice versa. The best thing you can do, just be predictable. Don't catch anybody off guard, even if you're not in the position that they would want you to be in. If you hold your line, if you're predictable, I think that is something that those faster cars will appreciate the most. So we've seen cars pit at the 1/3 marker. Now we're waiting on that second group of cars to go for the one-stop strategy, because next time by for Andrew Freenach, going to be 50 down and 50 to go. So we are closing in on halfway home as Seth the Merchant is in quite a fight right now, having just passed Sam Nieto.
Whoa.
He is up to P6, and Nieto way out of control.
Wow, I actually have no idea how he saved that. That was incredible to see that happen right there. Now, your leader, Andrew Freenach, is about to come down pit road. He has made his opponents aware that he will pit this time, Evan. So obviously right at the even mark, right at the halfway mark, rather, he's going to make it happen. But Sam is still on track, but I bet that was a bit of a scary moment inside that car.
It can happen that quickly, and it was a good save. That goes to show, doesn't matter if cars are spread out, single car spins, it can happen, and here they all come. Davis, Cato, Jurgensen, Major, Lariah, Phillip, Freenach, everybody right on the money at halfway. It's a bit of a split car exit and entry there. They're able to navigate. Freenach, though, too deep into the stall. Looked like a small mistake out of the race leader. And how much time does that cost Andrew Freenach? He had just taken the lead away from Agnell Phillip, and Agnell's going to win the race off of pit road because of it.
And there you go. So that will be your new leader, Agnell Phillip, and led already, but now will lead again here. And everyone has come down. By the way, Seth the Merchant has a black flag. Seth the Merchant speeding on pit road on the entrance, Evan. When it rains, it pours.
Had done so much work to race through the field, and he was playing from behind. And when you're playing from behind, you're going to be forced to take risk. And that was an unforced error because he was about 20 miles an hour over the limit at the cones. It was not close for Seth the Merchant, and that is going to take him out of at least race win contention, it would seem. And maybe a bad night for him. We talked about how bad can a bad night really be with a car count of this size, but certainly not what he had wanted, and maybe at least a small opening in the door for the likes of Phillip and Freenach in the championship. Let's go on board again. He's drafting. There's Nieto, the car up the road, and I mean, it's a weird place to lose it, right? It's not right on the exit or the cusp of the apex, but I don't know if he got caught trying to follow the car in front of him a bit too much, but it was just a real late snap, and it was a good job saving it.
I'm going to put this theory out there, and I could be wrong, and this does happen sometimes in iRacing, Evan. I wonder if there's force feedback involved there. Let's watch this again. Here's the Sam Nieto. This is not the same spot, but he's going to lose it again here. I'm wondering if there's force feedback involved. Like, a thing that happens in iRacing is sometimes a driver wants so much force feedback that it's set too high. And then, here's going to be the moment right here. And then let me let this finish before I say what I want to say here. But watch it, just kind of weirdly snaps to the left after he tries to turn it. Sometimes when you have your force back too high, the wheel will snap on you because of that much feedback you're getting out of the wheel. And you get to a point where the feedback is driving the car and not the driver. That's sort of what that felt like to me right there, was maybe the wheel snapped a little harder than he wanted it to. and it was hard to gather up.
And what we'll see now is a flip of control of this race, because Cody Harris has gone to the race lead, Tom Wetmore to second, William Schmidt to third, and Galen Gidman to fourth, Harry Grindle to P5. Those are some of the cars who decided to come in and pit at the 1/3 marker in this race, and will likely have an additional trip down to the pit lane still to go before this race is done. So they are 19 seconds ahead of the cars who just pitted, but they are going to be running slower than the cars who just pitted. So that gap is going to get chipped away at. They will, in theory, be pitting again in about 10 laps. They will come down, lose that track position, but then have the better tires for the run to the end of the race. So it'll be really interesting if those 5 commit and see their strategy through on the numbers to who wins out in this strategy call, 2 stops or 1 stop.
Yeah, that's going to be a great question. It's part of why I love the sport of auto racing, is because of those what-ifs and the strategies and the scenarios and the full thing. I love those kind of things, and I don't know what's going to happen here. Obviously, we think that Cody Harris and the others are going to pit in a few laps here. Let's watch this again. This is Sam Nieto. This is oh, man, look at that slide. Ooh. Oh, no, he hit the barrels. That is going to, oh, he got hit by camera.
And all of that happening inside of the pit wall, so no caution. It was off of the racetrack. We stay green, so it goes from bad to worse for Sam Nieto.
That's unfortunate right there. That's going to be the end of a night, I'm pretty sure, for Sam Nieto. If not, it's going to be the end of a very competitive night, at least, for Sam. But, yeah, right now we have to wait and see these 5. As you said, you know, the question I have is, once they pit again, can they then make up that time again with the laps that are left in the newer tires? I'm not convinced, to be honest, but here's Agnell Phillip back in P5, who will likely assume the race lead once these other drivers pit.
You can see the onboard look there with Agnell Phillip and the gaps in the battle for the race lead. Agnell about 5 seconds back, having just been able to complete the pass, or I should say, will be getting to Galen Gidman, who is next driver up on deck, and he'll continue to chip away. Those are per position, right? So 5 seconds up to the next car, so on and so forth. Agnell's total gap back to the leader is about 15 seconds at the moment, but those are the gaps to the next car in line. Agnell, of those names down there, only driver on the one-stop strategy. He is good to go to the end of the race. I will say it's probably a good sign for your strategy if you are coming down pit road for your second pit stop and the cars on the one stop haven't yet passed you. So it's a good sign for Harris and Wetmore. And so many times, Derek, we see these kind of strategies, but it's, the cars who are going for the 2-stop strategy are, like I mentioned earlier, 15th, 16th placed cars. There's some fast cars in that group of 4. I will say that statistically speaking, if 2/3 of the cars pick a one-stopper, there's probably a reason behind that, but we have seen some brilliant strategy calls in the past, so I'm not going to stake my claim yet on which one I think is going to win out.
So listen, there's an idea for success and a path for success that some people believe in, which is to be better than, less than, or different than your opponents. That's how you're successful in life. Is you're either better than them, you're lesser than them, or you're different than. And for drivers like Cody Harris or even Tom Wetmore or William Schmidt, who've not won a race yet this season in the IceBreaker series, sometimes you have to be different than. You have to be willing to go out there and commit to something different and just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't, maybe you'll learn something from it. But if you continue to be the same as everyone else and you continue to do the same thing as everyone else, you're going to get the same results you've had all along. So sometimes you just have to try it and see what happens. I agree with you. The good news is that Agnell Phillip and these guys have not passed them. And, I mean, that 15-second roughly lead that he has, that'll, of course, be dug into by the pit delta. But we'll wait and see what happens. Also, sorry to cut you off here.
Yeah, go.
Seth the Marchant has called it a night.
So that is it for Seth. He had the, of course, error at the start of the race, some sort of an issue with his monitors that dropped him back to 19th. He had declined to a top 10 spot, but a speeding penalty means that Seth's night is done. All it will do is leave about 4 points on the table, right? That's all he's going to lose. He may have been able to get Kamer off the Edo, some of the cars a lap down, but unless we see a lot of yellows in this race that really shook things up, there was not going to be a lot left to gain after that second mistake for Seth, so he will walk away P22 again. It is not a huge opening in the championship with a 47-point advantage that he had coming into tonight, but it is at least a crack in the door. Now Lariah, P2 in the points. Nathan Jurgensen, P3 in the points. They're 7th and 8th. This could be your chance. You need to maximize points. Agnew Phillip 4th, Cody Harris 5th. Both those drivers leading their respective strategies. Could be a big night to get a little bit closer.
A big night indeed. And listen, what happens in iRacing, for those who maybe are watching because you have relatives or friends who are not part of the service, you get a notice when someone leaves or joins a race or a session, as we call them. So everyone's now aware that Seth has walked away. So Lariah and Jurgensen's eyes probably had to give it about as big as tennis balls in that moment, knowing that this is that night where they can close that gap. This is the night where you build momentum, and as we see all the time in sports, whether it be virtual or real life or any other form, momentum is what can carry you onto the finale.
They're trying to nix my point from earlier that with field sizes, points available, it's better to start good than end good. I think it goes to show, again, that's why you run the races. You got to go all the way to the end because every single lap matters. We are officially 2/3 of the way through this race. Wetmore pit road. He has decided to come down. That's right on the money and what we expected for Wetmore. We would then think this time by you should be seeing Harris and Schmidt.
Yeah, sorry, 1 to 2 laps more is all Harris did the first time by. So he's down looking at bottom lane, got it slowed down, and should be it right. Nope, he's going to keep going. Did he miss pit road?
I think he's going a tad bit longer. It is deceptive. You should note Kyle Kamer on the outside of the racetrack, better tires, so he's going to look quicker than Harris. But you're right, he did go a little bit longer on that first run. He's been out there for a 32-lap stint. We did see Schmidt pit, so I was correct on one of those. Harris going to be down very shortly, and it does confirm that everybody is committed to the fact that this is a two-stop strategy, and he is now slow on the binders. No, he's staying out there, so he looks slower because he's probably got older tires than anybody else on track. I wonder if Schmidt undercutting him may be a battle within this strategy call.
Yeah, that's possibly a likelihood, and you're right. Maybe it was his difference in tires. But that first time, I thought I saw Cody get it really wound up and kind of wobble the car as if he was trying to get it down on pit road safely. But you're right, he seems committed here. Now, we'll see if he does it this time. Now we're sort of on the Cody Harris watch, if you will, to see when it happens. That's Doug Roth right ahead of him here. And as a driver, you want to get it wound up correctly. You want to do it. And there it is. And this
right
is
on the money too. That was pretty aggressive. Right, up against the wall. He didn't get down to 45, much more than maybe a split second or two before the line. So it was a pretty aggressive entry. Exactly what I think he wanted. The question is going to be, was it too long?
Yeah, that'll be the question. And by the way, I know you called it out a couple times. 45 miles an hour. When you've been going around this track at 180 or whatever the speeds you're doing under green, there is nothing slower than pit road. It feels like it just lasts for like 9 years under green. When you see cars passing you by, cars unlapping themselves, my goodness, there's nothing harder than staying off the gas pedal and speeding on pit road.
30 laps to go this next time by in this 6th race of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. Agnew Phillip through this strategy has cycled back to the race lead as you see Cody Harris exit the pit road. The second trip down to pit road for Cody cycles him way back in the field. We'll see then how everybody races back from this point. The lead car on the two-stop strategy is Wetmore, then Schmidt, then Cody Harris. So in order in which they pitted the better tires earlier for Wetmore, paying off at least for the moment. How long does it last, though? Because it is Schmidt all over the bumper.
And man, look at Wetmore here. He got Schmidt all over his bumper. His spotter, John Steele, must be going crazy trying to give these calls here and telling him where to go. Wetmore, only one of 2 drivers in this race tonight with a real-life spotter. And oh man, he's going to get up under him. And I'm sure John Steele is busy giving those commands right now.
He is very, very busy trying to keep his driver updated. And again, these gaps, not what you would want, though, if you're these cars. Schmidt just getting around Agnew Phillip. They've got a whole 1.5 mile racetrack to get all the way back to and catch the leader. It is going to be a tall order because you're going to need about 1.2 or so seconds per lap for every lap in the end of this race if you want to catch up. I just don't know if they're going to get those kind of numbers to get all the way back to Agnew Phillip. But nonetheless, the battle for the best on the two-top strategy continues. Harris now back under the lead lap as well. There's the three of them right there.
Yeah, there they are all together. So now what they all need to do in a weird way is not fight one another. That's easier said than done for a race car driver. But if you guys want to engage in a three-car battle and start going 2 and 3 wide around this track, you're going to kill whatever momentum you possibly have from these new tires. These guys need to stay in line, you know, run their times, or make a very quick and concise pass. But if you get involved in a battle here, you're just going to let Agnew Phillip and Andrew Freenosh walk away with this.
They have about a 1.4 second gap between them. Phillip to Freenosh, 3.7 back to Lariah, the top three. There's a decent chance that that is what the top three looks like at the end of the night. But Cody Harris, William Schmidt, Tom Wetmore have an interesting fight on their hands. Not only are they 25 seconds off of the leader with about 25 to go, right? So right at about a 1.1 second ballpark of what you need every single lap. But if they fight with each other right now, Derek, they're going to hurt themselves. So Wetmore got the lead of this group because he pitted a little bit earlier than Schmidt. Schmidt got the advantage over Harris because of the same reason. But that also means Harris has got a little bit better tires than Schmidt, who's got a little bit better tires than Wetmore. You're going to want to fight. But if you start going side by side, you are slowing yourselves down. Will they be disciplined, or are they going to fight regardless?
Well, based upon the way that Cody Harris has taken this line into these corners and even through the tri-oval, I'm inclined to believe they're not that disciplined. But we'll wait and see here. This is the view from Cody Harris. And they are doing a pretty good job of staying in line. See him kind of lifting a little bit here so he doesn't run over William Schmidt. And I think Cody just believes he's faster than Schmidt. There it is, side by side. Now they've got to be concise in this move. It's got to be almost an old IndyCar style slingshot type of move to be successful here and not lose any time.
You saw Harris aggressive when he was getting underneath William Schmidt in the battle for what has become a 13th position. Now he goes to the inside of Tom Wetmore in a battle for P12. Harris continues his march through. Lost some track position with the later pit stop, but he's got the tires to do it now. And they've got a car up the road. 4 position, Widemaster the way. Do they go 3 wide? Widemaster to the middle. Oh, there's contact. He was going to go low. Saw Harris coming, tried to go high. And as the 51 Wetmore tried to go way to the outside, he drove into the back of the 90 Widemaster.
Well, I'm pretty sure right now the Wetmore is upset with Jaron Widemaster just because of that moment right there. But Cody Harris is the big winner from that. Now he's going to go around that Sprite car of Major and get away from this. They were on the verge of doing real harm to one another by racing side by side, but that Widemaster incident sort of took care of that. Now the clock begins to tick for Cody Harris. Can he close this gap, which as the time scoring says it is there on the left side of your screen. It's now almost, what, 18, 19 seconds. Well, 20 laps to go. I don't know. I don't think it's doable. I've seen crazier things, though.
Never say never, but again, I said if 60% of the field's picking the one-stopper, there's probably a reason that more cars than not thought that that was the better decision to go with. We will see, though. Again, Seth the Merchant, for the first time of this season, will not finish inside of the top 5. And in fact, with the Andre Kane 8 laps down, completed a couple of more laps, it'll be a last-place finish for Seth the Merchant. I believe, though, 23rd still will get him 14 race points, so it's not going to be a goose egg, but it does certainly crack the door open for the likes of Lariah, for the likes of Jurgensen, Phillip, and Freenosh. Those are the drivers that he is fighting with against in the championship. And funny enough, Phillip, who enters tonight 4th in the points, 1st on track right now. Andrew Freenosh not quite so, 8th in position in the points. He's 2nd, but Lariah, P2 in the points, he's third. Jurgensen, third in points. He's fourth. All the drivers that need to have a good night are having that good night now.
They are having a good night. Let's watch this replay here. This will be William Schmidt here. This is when they were too wide. Yeah, that was with Cody Harris. And yeah, I mean, Winemaster just really slid up the track, and even Schmidt reacted pretty hard. Schmidt was scared that he was going to come back down and cause a wreck. So you saw that big movement there. Now, the one silver lining, if there is one for Seth the Merchant, during that pit cycle, he did lead a lap. So he will get a little bit of bonus for that. So he did, I believe, lead a lap under the pit cycle. But you're right. This is that night for Philip, Freenosh, and Lariah, even Jurgensen to pounce. Now, here's Cody Harris trying to pounce again here. Let's watch this moment right here. This is going to be, yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say. Winemaster just gets loose and slides up.
And he said, like, hey, he was coming low on me. Certainly, the idea was, from Wetmore, was that there was enough for him to go 3 wide, right? With car to pass on the bottom, he was going to go to the outside, but it just did not play out in that manner, and it's a tough break. Again, Wetmore was going to lose the spot anyways, but he gets damaged. There's some damage as well to the 9 of Winemaster after all of that, and it does not affect the forward momentum of the lead car in this strategy, and that is Cody Harris, who has driven his way up to P7. The gap is 18 seconds to the race leader with 16 laps to go. Remember, not that long ago, the gap was 25 seconds with 25 to go. What that cannot happen, Derek, is that the seconds continues to go above the laps, right? You need those to stay in line, and as those laps to go starts to undercut the gap, it means he's slowing down and he's running out of steam.
Well, what will happen, though, probably in the last 10 laps, Evan, is that your cars at the front, Agno Phillip, Andrew Freenosh, and the others, those cars will begin to slow down as well, because with that one-stop play, those tires right now, I mean, they're probably starting to feel the effects of it, but those next 5 or 10 laps, those tires will really begin to wear out. And so it's possible those cars up front slow down. I mean, look at Cody Harris here. Now has it under 15 seconds. He's moving. What he needs to have happen, though, is for those guys up front to slow down those cars and for him to gain time faster. That'll be how this move is successful.
And if they can fight amongst themselves, too, that is always going to be helpful. Maverick Davis, next man up. There is the white and red car ahead of the white and red car of Davis, next driver up. That would be for P6. I think there's no doubt that we're going to be talking about a Cody Harris top 5 anyways, but is that much of a, a win, a consolation prize, if you will? Because before Cody pitted to go off strategy, he was 4th when he decided to pit at the 1/3 marker. So that is the net minimum, is to get back to 4th, and it is a net loss, a net gain of nothing, as he makes the move on the inside of the 15 and now is back inside of the top 6. He'll then have to catch 3 seconds more up to get to the 12 of Cato.
Well, what this can be in a weird way of victory for Cody, though, is information. Every driver, every race you have, you want to sort of take away the information of how something did or didn't work. And so now, if next year we do this car track combo again, Cody might be able to say, hey, listen, that move I made on lap 33, that didn't work, or that did work. And other drivers hopefully will take note of that same thing and say, hey, that strategy, let's mark that off the board as maybe something that didn't work here. But you're right. I mean, Cody Harris was 4th. He's now back to 6th. I think he'll get 4th back at least. 4th currently being Ross Cato on the track. But he is cruising along here, Evan. That's now under 13 seconds. That draft he has in front of him will help. This will be tight if he keeps getting 1 second a lap. This will be a very tight battle. Now, getting to the leaders and passing them, 2 different problems.
You're right, and that is the daunting task is as well. You can't really just bank on getting there at the 1 to go, because you're going to need an opportunity to set up the pass and to make it happen. How many laps does that require? That's TBD. There's no exact science, but you want to give yourself more time as possible to be able to set up those moves and try to get at least 1, if not 2 looks at the leader. If they can say shut the door, block, or defend, your first opportunity. His gap now, as he continues to charge through, sits at about 12 seconds with 10 laps to go. Still on the wrong side of the margin, but pushing aggressively. And as he catches the next cars for position, that's going to be key as well. Agnell Phillips got some lap traffic up the road. Agnell needs to be able to get around Jaron and Kyle quick, but those two cars directly in front of him fighting for position. So how does that play a factor? Does that slow the Donnie Ford down at all?
And what happens here, by the way, is that within the iRacing software, these guys can hear the communications from other drivers. Agnell is likely aware that there was an issue with Weinmeister earlier, being in front of someone. So he's going to be a little cautious here, likely, and make sure he can make that pass, succinctly before he tries something here. He knows something happened before, and then Kyle camera up ahead. This could slow down Agnell Phillip. Oh, look at that. There it is. There's that. See? Just one dive and made sure it happened.
Yeah, real quick, and that's exactly what you want to see, is to be precise about it and clear before you get back to the corner. That way, you don't have to enter the corner high and take a weird turn or enter low and not get the arc you want. You want to try to minimize the disruption to your line as much as possible. That does not look like that's going to happen, though, right now, because the 8 cars parked on the bottom, it's going to force the 94 to go to the outside. Now, Kamer is going to kind of lift it a little bit there, and I think he lets the 94 go, but it may be worth noting that lap time for Agnell Phillip was a tad bit slower than some of his previous lap times. So he'd been running 33.3s. His last 2 laps, a 33.5 and a 33.4. So he does lose a little bit of time in making those passes, but now he's got a good chunk of clean racetrack up the road.
Yeah, and that time has slowed down as you predicted for Cody Harris. We're 8 laps to go, and he is still, I think, plus 10 seconds on the board here. So this seems like that strategy maybe not pay off here. Maybe it needed a caution to help him. Maybe it needed something weird to happen to help him. But, I mean, I admire and respect the move of being different sometimes and trying it out. But Agnell Phillip, as you said, straight here. Watch the gap here, by the way. There is Agnell Phillip. Look at the very back of your screen, just right there. That's Cody Harris coming off of the corner.
And it's worth noting, if Harris can get back to 4th, or if he can improve and get a podium, it is a win in the strategy, right? It's certainly not a losing decision, but make no mistake, the reason that call was made is because he wanted to win this race. That is the objective. You're not going to go off strategy to gain a spot. You're going for the win. That is the objective every single time these drivers head out and onto the racetrack. Next time by, going to be 5 laps to go for Agnell Phillip, a race in which it has been green from the get-go. His advantage over Friedrich continues to grow, now 2.5 seconds clear of Andrew, as he is looking at Agnell Phillip, the defending Winter Series champion, trying to keep his championship hopes alive, looking for race win number 1.
Look at all that clean track ahead of him here. Nothing but pavement or concrete or asphalt up in the way here. So now it's just on him to have that happen here. And down into turn 3 he goes. So now he's going to start to breathe a little easier, relax, not push too hard. You're almost 2.5 seconds over your car behind you. With 5 to go, just be calm. Your tires are old. Don't do anything silly here.
Again, the biggest pickup is all that clean racetrack out the road. I mean, that is exactly what Agnell wants. Madanzi Major's halfway down the backstretch. I don't think he's getting to him before this race is done. So Agnell has got plenty in the bank. Cody Harris still about 12 seconds back. His challenge for the race lead gone. He may get to Jurgensen, but man, Cody's car is not driving real nice, and he's only been about 0.2 better than Jurgensen the last couple of laps. I don't think he's got time to make up the 3-second gap. His charge may stall at a loss of having pitted from 4th, finishing in 5th. On the 2-tire strategy, it was at least close, but in the end, the margin is going to be more than 10-plus seconds. I think back to Agnell Phillip, it'd be close to cracking 9. And Agnell Phillip looking to lock this one down on a bit of a unique night for him, right? He was, 12th in practice? Not all that impressive. Certainly made some gains, 4th in qualifying, but did not lead for a while at the start of this race. It was Tom Wetmore who stormed out to the early advantage. We've seen Friedrich, we've seen Harris lead laps as well, but Agnell Phillip looking to pocket 42 big ones if he can secure this race win, having already locked up 2 bonus points for the most laps led and a lap led.
Yeah, doing a great job here tonight, and what's been sort of up and down season for Agnell Phillip here. And we're watching him come around here in these corners. And I hope we can get back to an onboard shot. I have a question, but I want to see if we can get an onboard shot again before we do it. watching his speeds through the corner here as we're coming around here. And I am unsure. Is he lifting? Listen to this. It feels like he's lifting and coasting, almost as if he's unsure that he was going to make it to the end on gas. I mean, he's pretty safe from here, but that feels like a lot of lifting and coasting, Evan.
And looking at lap times, the only driver faster than Agnell right now is Cody. Agnell's still faster than Freenach, still faster than Lariah, Jurgensen, Harris. Unless they decided to go for a difference on the fuel, I'm not sure what it would have been, but he's enough to get to the checkered flag, and Agnell Phillip has done it. He will stay alive in the quest for a 4th consecutive RSR championship with race win number 1. Lariah P2 behind him, out of fuel to the stripe. So some drivers cut it close, but Agnell's got enough for maybe the race win and some donuts coming up next.
Yeah, maybe the donuts coming up next based on what we've seen and heard, and now he's really slow here through the corner. That might be it. But great job for Agnell Phillip. What a great night for the points and the momentum he needs to finish off this season.
There was a side-by-side battle across the line for second as Lariah ran out. Freenach comes up 2/100 short, but there is plenty in the tank for the A51 Pro Chevrolet. Agnell Phillip, a race winner once more in the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series. And the trends continue. Demergent winning the odd-numbered races, and the evens going to Malik Gray, Michael Guest, and now Agnell Phillip, and the gap will close significantly in the championship. He'll take a chunk of about 30 points out of it. It is still a tall order, but we have a brand new ball game, Derek, in the points that make the final 2 races interesting. And there's a look at that side-by-side of the line in which Freenach almost got around Lariah, who was out of fuel.
Yeah, it was a great battle there and a great night for Agnell Phillip. And what a great race it was here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Let's take a look at your RealSimRacing full race results tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Race time on this one pretty quick after 100 laps without a yellow. And it is Phillip with a race win, 3.4 seconds over Lariah. Again, that close call for the New England boys, but Freenach just shy of stealing it away. He'll come home in 3rd. We'll talk with them in all just a little bit. Nathan Jurgensen holds on for 4th. Again, Harris stalls out, does stay at above 10 seconds over on that gap, and will settle for a P5 finish in this race tonight. Ross Cato comes home in the number 6 spot. Tom Wetmore and William Schmidt, the next 2 up. Those 2 were also on the 2-tire call. They're good enough for 7th and 8th tonight, ahead of Maverick Davis and Michael Guest, your top 10.
Moving back into P11 here, we're going to find Grant Davis back in 11th with Galen Gidman in 12th. Manatsi Major finishes in 13th. And on back, your cars 1 or more laps down. Kyle Cameron, Jaron Weinmaster, Doug Roth, Harry Grindell, Sam Nieto, Mike Maddox, and Braden Whitaker round out your top 20.
And to continue things out, again, Don Stevenson, 15 laps down in this one. DeAndre Kane, 29. But the big story is that Seth the Merchant had an issue on the start, then had a self-inflicted error, speeding onto pit road, DNFs the race. And to be said, that was about the only thing that could make this championship a little bit more interesting. Again, he will still be the championship leader with a lack of drops. But all of a sudden, things seemed not so impossible. Well, let's get a word with your top finishers. Agnell Phillip is a race winner for the first time of this season. We're down trackside with him and Agnell. Congratulations on this win. Green all the way, a bit of a split strategy on the pit stops, and some fuel questions to the end. That one had a lot going on.
Oh yeah, that was a super fun race. Really happy with kind of how I adjusted kind of in the middle of the race, my driving, and try to finish these races off stronger than you start them. It's something I want to get better at this year. So really fun to battle, and man, I mean, these things it's quite something when you go flag to flag in these things, because they become a handful. I was drifting down both straightaways. I couldn't even go full throttle on the front dog leg. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, that was really fun, and glad we could have that, and that we came out on top.
Practice times looked a little bit slow for you, but you quickly kind of silenced that when we went into qualifying. You started towards the top 5, and then it seemed like this race had the potential to do this, right? We had seen 4 or 5 yellows in every race this season to this point, but you get about 23, 24 cars or so in the field. You think you're going to get the separation, and we saw an early race lead by Tom. Then that kind of got reeled back in. A lot of drivers seem to maybe not be too prepared for the long run in terms of saving. How much of that was a factor when you're, turning to the right for basically every single corner with these cars, how hard they are to handle?
Yeah, it was, the flow of the race is very interesting, because when you get into these like fuel mileage type races, and it was pretty obvious early on that we were going to be pretty close on fuel, and especially with, I knew just with how the fall off was in the practice that I could try to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and try to save fuel and save tire behind Tom there for a bit, who I could see was pushing a bit, kind of on the early run. And then, once I got by him, I thought I was doing fine. The fuel numbers were checking out, and then, I was holding Drew pretty steady there for a while, and then the right rear just went away. And once that started going away a little bit, it went away a lot. And, these things, just with how much horsepower you're trying to, deliver to the tires off the corner, like once that right rear goes, it's game over. And Drew was able to catch me pretty quick there, and I had a little battle there with some guys who were on the alternate strategy. I didn't know for the 2-stoppers how that was going to work. We've seen other places where that kind of, I'm thinking of the RSR finale at Phoenix, I guess 2 years ago now. The 2-stop worked, and we were running pretty slow at the end of the run, so I was like, maybe, but you also have in the back of the mind what you were saying, that we've had 4 or 5 cautions in every race too, so I didn't want to get caught out on a pit cycle with the cautions until this field shows it's capable of doing it, and now it has, going flag to flag. So this is where this stuff gets fun, and it's been the, I guess I wouldn't say missed opportunity, because the races this season have been fun, but this is when you're at 40-50 lap old tires just trying to hold on, and you see somebody like Drew who's so talented be able to outdrive you. That's what's cool about this, not just restarts over and over again. It's a different level as a driver to participate in. So had a blast out there, and glad the strategy cards played in and played our way, and we were able to kind of save the right amount and go when we needed to.
When you came into tonight, obviously still looking for the first race win of the season, you had a 62-point gap from you to Seth in the championship lead. He finishes last in this one. That's, again, a relative term. 23rd, it could be worse if there were more cars. So after tonight, though, you do close the gap down to 35. It is still a tall order. Do you let yourself think about that at all, knowing that the gap is enough that for you to be there, not only do you have to perform, but he would require more problems? Or is it because of that you just focus on your race headed into the next 2?
I don't know. I kind of look at this as, especially the Winter Series, like, Seth has been the fastest guy all season. He's a deserving, champion. I'm honestly, if it plays out that way, fine. I think I'm kind of looking at this as an opportunity to work on different things for the coming, Road to Pro and coming Cup Series seasons, just to get better at this, because you get to a certain level and you start to hit these plateaus and not know, what to do to get better. And that's just a dangerous kind of place to be, I guess. And I don't want to be in that spot. So that's what I'm using this for. The champion. We'll see. I'd like to kind of recover. I'd like the standings to be a reflection of the improvement through the season. We didn't start off that well. Got kind of caught up in some wrecks in some of these races. It's a short season, so that stuff's like kind of a killer just generally. And if we can kind of get up there into second or third, I think that seems like more realistic, Seth, assuming he shows up and doesn't have any more technical issues. Frankly, it's just not going to happen. So I'm not, really going to think too much about that. It's unfortunate what happened with him and his technical issues tonight, because I'm sure he would have had a lot of pace. He's good at these types of tracks. So yeah, I'm not gonna really think too much about the championship, just try to maximize the results, and we'll see where it all kind of lands at the end.
Going to be headed to Fontana next week for the next round of this championship. You started good. You had pole last time we were in Michigan earlier this year. Does that give you any confidence headed into that one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not. It's funny. All these Winter Series tracks have actually, when I really look at my kind of history at various of them, including Charlotte, they're not my strongest tracks on the service. So, it's I'm just gonna go in and try to like, find ways to improve and see what kind of pace we can have through the race. I think there's a lot of guys who are really good there. I think Lariah has, historically been very good at Fontana. I remember I feel like he won a Winter Series race there a couple years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. So I think, and we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting with the multi-groove. That track's really good for that too. Much better than Michigan is, even for kind of that multi-groove racing. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to just send these things into the corner at, like, I don't know how fast they go in at Fontana. I'm assuming like 200, 205. Like, it'll be cool hearing the engines just roar. You don't get that at a lot of these other tracks. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Had pretty good Q pace. Obviously, that doesn't really mean a ton, at least in kind of the upper tiers of the competition here. But it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to, racing at a track that doesn't really exist anymore. It'll be a nice little nostalgia trip to have these cars out there.
It'll be weird to think that, for sure. And I will say your RSR trivia, very good as well. Lariah got that Winter Series win at Auto Club back in the 2022 season. And we'll let you get out of here, though. We appreciate the time. Before we let you do, anybody want to say hi to from Victory Lane tonight?
Yeah, gotta say hi to and thanks to the folks over at A51 Pro and Lockdown Racing. Getting ramped up here for Road to Pro season. Kind of back at it. We'll see where things end up on there, and our team's trying to make a run at the Daytona 24 this coming weekend too. So hopefully we have some good team accomplishments coming up here. Also have to shout out my colleagues with the ProPublica Guild. We're finally getting bargaining kicked off, so it's been fun. And I encourage everybody to go check out the great work by a lot of my colleagues on ProPublica.org, and donate if you support if you like what you see and you support the mission. So I think those are thanks, and obviously thanks to you, Evan, for putting this on. Always a highlight of Monday evenings for me.
We'll appreciate you giving us some time as well to come and have some fun with us on a Monday night. Agnell, congratulations on the win, and we'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, Evan.
It's your race winner tonight for the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Agnell Phillip is back in RSR Winter Series Victory Lane. We'll continue on down with the post-race interviews. Derek will toss things off to you first with Michael Lariah tonight, who comes home in P2.
Well, let's take a second and have a conversation with the driver who maybe took the most advantage of an unfortunate night for Seth DeMerchant. Michael Lariah, you came in tonight P2 in points. You finished P2 in the race. Now, I know Evan will have the numbers for me in my ears in a second. Maybe you can tell us both. You're going to close that gap a little bit. How hopeful are you to continue to close that gap on Seth?
Well, obviously tonight was a very beneficial night just to close in that gap with Seth. But knowing how good of a driver he is and just, has been throughout this whole Winter Series, I feel like I still am going to need some help to get myself into position to make a run for it. Next couple tracks coming up are ones that I do enjoy going to, and I feel like I'll have some speed there as well. So I feel like I'm definitely not out of it by any means, but I'm still going to need a little bit of some breaks here and there throughout the next couple races to really make something happen.
Yeah, so now we're being told you're now negative 27 on Seth. You gained 20 points tonight on him. Now, the next track in the schedule, you said, is one you do well at. In fact, we just learned through Agnell Phillips RSR Trivia, you won at Fontana 2 years ago. So that must feel good to know we're going to a track you've won at, right?
Oh, it certainly does. That was back when we were running the Xfinity car. I feel like there's some similarities between that car and the Gen 4. But I feel like the Gen 4 fits my driving style even better than that car does, so that definitely gives me some confidence. But I feel like now, though, that we're a little bit later into the season, the fast guys are even more comfortable with this car now, so it's going to be interesting. I think with that race, anybody that can have the ability to move around and change lines, that's going to be extremely beneficial to them. But I still think it's going to be similar to what we saw tonight, where just being able to wrap the bottom and manage your tires is still going to be the primary goal throughout the race.
Yeah, very likely so. So we have 2 races left here, but I'm going to focus away from the race here tonight and ask, do you have any weekend plans? Are you part of the 24 this weekend? Or are you just ready to get ready for next RSR next Monday night?
I don't have any plans this year for the 24 Hours of Daytona. I've run that race in the past. It is a lot of fun, but just plans haven't came together for this year. But I'm definitely looking forward to run that race again in the future. But yeah, for me, definitely looking forward to the next RSR race. I'm going to be putting in more work. Also, trying to get some things lined up for the upcoming season for RSR, the Cup car, getting, paint schemes, driver suits, helmets, all that squared away with. So, staying plenty busy on the iRacing side of things.
Well, there you go. Well, Michael, congrats tonight on a P2, and hopefully we'll see you to perform well next week at Fontana.
All right. Thank you.
All right, that is Michael Raya, Evan. He finished P2 here tonight. All right, and then next up, let's go ahead and get caught up with Andrew Freenosh here. Well, Evan apparently has stepped away for a moment. We'll get Andrew moved into the booth. Andrew, what a moment you had there at the end of the race. You and Michael side by side. One or both of you was out of gas. Were you also out of gas?
I was not. That last run, trying to keep up with Agnell, which is kind of hard to do. And I looked down probably with about 15 laps to go in the race, and I said, I'm about half a lap short, so I had to start backing it off. And I saved a little too much because I had like 0.2 when we crossed the line, but he ran out, I did not.
Yeah, well, a great battle there at the end. So a moment tonight, as we talked about with all of you so far, to catch up on Seth. Seth had the unfortunate, the gremlins to start the race, and then that speeding penalty on pit road, which I think ultimately led to his decision to just go ahead and park it for the night. So that helps you a little bit in the points. Are you here for the points this season? Are you here for the experience? What's your motivator for the IceBreaker series?
Yeah, I'm just here Monday nights and have fun. I think I've missed a race already, so points are not really a thing. Years past, taking this very seriously and practice a lot, and to be dead honest, came in tonight with 0 practice, so I'm just here to have fun, race a really, really fun car, and against really good guys, and I've kind of achieved that tonight. Thought we gave away an opportunity to win the race, sliding through a box there, but I'm just here to have fun, and I achieved that. So.
All right, well, speaking of having fun, next week, I guess now we call it a legacy track, right? It's Fontana, it's Auto Club, whatever you want to call it. It's the legacy track, I guess it no longer exists. What's your history of Fontana? Do you enjoy the track?
This is going to be a hot take, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for it. I cannot stand that track. I've hated it since the first day I've been on iRacing. Never could save tires, never could run the track. So there in Michigan, I am not a fan of those 2 tracks. So I don't even know if we'll come out next week, but if we do, maybe it can change my mind. But I have bad history there, and I just do not enjoy racing that track.
So you're saying somewhere at the petition to destroy Auto Club, somewhere Andrew Freenosh is signed on that document? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying on iRacing, I don't like to race, but they produce good racing in real life. It's fun to watch racing there. I know it doesn't exist anymore, but there's some pretty good finishes there.
Yeah, there's been some great finishes all along. Well, Andrew, great job tonight. Anyone you want to say hello to or give thanks to on your way out?
Yeah, big thanks to Evan for running this league. Giving us the opportunity to race this car and make changes. I can't say thank you enough to him. For this and all the guys we get to race against. I look forward to Monday night racing against these guys. My family, friends for putting up with this hobby, and yeah, that's about it.
All right, well, according to our producer, Dane Baird, if you can't see it on the screen, maybe you can. It says, opinion invalid, Auto Club rules. Of course, Auto Club's a favorite track across RaceSpot. We just did a US 500 there, so I'm with you for the record. I have a terrible time at the track. I'm with you. We are maybe the 2 men alone in this battle. But Andrew, good job tonight, and hopefully I'll see you next week.
Thanks so much. Got to hold steady with that opinion.
There you go. You got to stay strong, brother. All right. Well, Evan, there's Andrew Freenosh, and I think that's our top 3.
Yeah, I gotta get a winter jacket for how that take was. But aside from that, appreciate this top 3 for giving us some time post-race to chat. And again, congratulations to Agnell on the win. And first caution-free race of the year. Figures I spend a whole 2-minute monologue to Eric about how races are predictable with restarts and 4 to 5 yellows a night. And just like that, our first one that goes green to the distance. But we are now 6 down and 2 to go. The championship is closest that it's been in quite some time, but it is still a tall order with just 2 races left to go as we head to the aforementioned Fontana Speedway next week.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that track produces. Probably lots of 2 and 3 wide racing. You'll see it here next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here, Evan.
I'll be here too. No football keeping me out of the saddle. So we'll be here. It is very strange to reference Fontana as a legacy racetrack, but that it is indeed. And of course, we hope that you join us then and every night as we continue on the road to this Winter Series Championship. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Fontana. On behalf of our entire team at RealSimRacing and RaceSpotTV, for our producer Dane Baird, for Derek Watson, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Agnell Phillip on race win number 1 of the season. We're back next Monday night at iRacing's virtual Auto Club Speedway. That race and every race of the RealSimRacing IceBreaker Winter Series is exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from Charlotte.